What's up everyone, hope you're all doing awesome today, and it's time yet again for more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So as usual, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. My cat got the cops called on us. Meet Kira, a 3-year-old Siberian who is obsessed with the outdoors. Kira has a leash and harness, and we go for walks weekly. But this week was full of no walks because it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit outside and snowing. She is obviously upset about this ordeal, and shows it by clawing at her wooden door and knocking over various items. So what does she do the moment the door is open for 0.5 seconds to get a package? She bolts. So here I am in nothing but my robe and slippers, running after my cat who has never touched snow before today. She's having a heyday and eating the snow while I slipped on my stairs and fell. At this point I'm mad, wet, and yelling at my cat to, and I quote, "Get over here or I'll ship your furry ass to Australia." We recently got new neighbors. They come out to see me in a robe covered in mud, wrestling with the cat as it screams bloody murder and proceeds to claw my eye out. "Hey, is that your cat?" They think I'm stealing her. Yes, it is. She's just being a baby. Her collar is... double shit, I had to take it off her to brush her earlier that morning. What do I do in my autistic panic mode? I stop and I bolt back into the house with nothing to say, as my cat is screaming and hissing at me. She's usually super sweet, but not when guests are near. Neighbors go back inside. I think it's all over now. I'm bleeding. I clean up a bit and suddenly I hear a very loud knock at the door. "Police department, open up." I'm terrified of cops. They think I stole a cat. I'm bleeding at the nose and I'm still half naked and covered in mud. I panic again. I run downstairs and open the door with a nervous smile. I didn't steal my own cat, is all that came out of my mouth as I faced 2 officers. They came inside, realized she was mine after I showed some pictures to them, gave her treats, and left with an apology. I kid you not, this all happened yesterday and I'm still processing it carefully. Want to squeeze every penny? Go ahead, but it'll cost you. I'd like to preface this post by saying that both my ex and child are in a very comfortable situation. Money has never been an issue and my kid is well looked after, fed, and generally well cared for, at no risk whatsoever. I have also never missed a child support payment, nor do I intend to. However, my ex and I have been at odds for a couple of years now about the custody of our kid. She's repeatedly lied to the court, made fake reports to the police, filed for restraining orders, the whole 9. None of this has worked. I've been battling it by being consistent and defending myself. One of her tactics has been to send her lawyer after me to demand every penny for every little thing. I started a new job back in January, with which came a nice pay rise. I told my ex of this. She did nothing. She would have received the increased child support payment following the next tax return anyway, so no bother. However, in the most recent conflict we had, her lawyer picked up on my change in circumstances and demanded that I adjust the child support payable with immediate effect, as opposed to at the end of the tax year. I am not legally obliged to do this, however I comply. Like I said, I'm happy to pay child support and it'll reduce conflict. Now here's the kicker. I've just received my annual pay rise, 2.1%. Given my ex's stance that I absolutely must inform her of any change in circumstances, I have sent these details over. However, this equates to roughly only $2 a month difference in child support. What this has done, however, is cost her about an hour's worth of time with her lawyer to calculate the difference, at roughly $300 per hour. The time to recoup this legal cost with increased child support? 12.5 years. Edit. A lot of comments are about 2% being only $2, so I only pay $100. No, my annual salary has been increased by 2%, not my child support payments. It just so happens to work out to a $2 difference with how the child support increase was decided. Believe me, I pay a lot more than $100 a month. Doing a half-assed job taking family pictures at a wedding after being told to shut up. I was taking pictures at a family wedding as a favor. I was being paid about half of what I normally charge, and I was fine with it. The bride is my favorite cousin, and her husband is amazing. During the formals, the wedding party was great, and I got lots of great shots. When it came time to take pictures of different family groups with the couple, people were extremely rude. They wouldn't stop talking or looking away from the camera. I tried politely reminding everyone that the camera was the big black thing on the tripod and that it took still images, not video. I was repeatedly told to shut up and stop being a smartass and that they knew what a camera was. I asked my wife to record video of the responses for me. My cousin was delighted with the pictures from the ceremony, the formals, and the reception. She laughed her ass off at the family pictures. In about half of them, people are looking off in all directions instead of at the camera. In most of those, there are people with their mouths open. She thought they were hilarious, and her husband agreed. I started getting crap on social media from my family about the terrible pictures. I replied that I had tried to explain to them that the camera was the big black thing on the tripod and that it only took still pictures. They said I should have waited for them to be ready, so I started posting the short video clips of people being jackasses towards me. Neighbor parks car in my driveway against my wishes, citing permission from my mother who is crippled with dementia. My mother has Alzheimer's disease. I try to spend at least 3 days a week at my parents' house to help out. Recently I came over after a 2-week work trip away and saw a strange car in the driveway on the side I usually park. I went inside and asked my dad who was visiting. He said no one was visiting. The neighbors had just started parking there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I kept prodding as to why they'd spontaneously take it upon themselves to park in our driveway. My dad finally broke down and said, "Yeah, well, apparently your mother told them it was okay. She was just a little confused." I asked if he'd told the neighbors there'd been a misunderstanding. He said he had, but they didn't seem to get it. I gave the neighbors the benefit of the doubt at first. My dad is a great guy, but sometimes he can be a little too nice. I figured he hadn't been quite clear enough with the neighbors out of concern for being impolite. So I went over there. I even brought some Ferrero Rocher chocolates to try and smooth it out. I knocked and nobody answered, even though it was obvious that they were home. I kept at it, getting a little frustrated at that point. Finally, a woman came to the door and opened it barely a centimeter before shouting, "We're not interested," and closing it again. I stood there and explained who I was. Nothing. Eventually I went home. I lingered by the window for the next few hours, hoping to catch someone when they came out of the house. It wasn't until a couple days later that I was able to intercept the man, completely by chance. We were both coming out of our house at the same time, and at first, he wanted to avoid me, but he realized his car was in my driveway, so he had no choice. I still tried to be friendly. I introduced myself. I told him my mother wasn't well and that anything she'd told him could not be taken at face value. I said we did need both parking spots. This guy kind of nodded and yesed me, but I got the feeling it wasn't the end when he left. Sure enough, there weren't any problems for the next few days, but eventually I did have to go back to work. The first day I was gone, my dad called me and mentioned they were parked there again. I tracked down their phone number and called, but shocker, they did not pick up. I came back a day earlier than I'd planned, and sure enough, there was the car. I went over to the house, all facade of friendliness gone. The woman of the couple came to the window, clearly saw it was me, and still didn't answer. So I ended up calling the police. I just told them my neighbor had erroneously parked in my driveway and were ignoring my requests to move. An officer came down and took my side of the story, then knocked on the neighbor's door. The woman had the nerve to continue ignoring them. The cop did not have time to be playing those games. He pounded on the door and basically ordered the residents out of the house. The husband came out of the house huffing and puffing, acting like it was the most major inconvenience he's ever experienced. The police officer said, "Your neighbors need you to move your vehicle from their property." The guy starts trying to claim he can leave his car there because he has a verbal contract with my mother who has dementia. I had already told the officer that, obviously. The neighbor was really feeling himself, playing lawyer, but the cop stopped him and basically said, "That was then, this is now. Now they want you to move it. Move it or it's going to be towed." The neighbor said he had to talk to a lawyer and do this and do that. The police officer reiterated that he had two choices, move it or get it towed. The neighbor blurted out, "But we have a new car, and if we move this back here, there won't be enough space." At that point, the cop was done playing games and was on the phone with the tow people when they finally went to move the car. The cop told the neighbors if they tried bringing their car back over, they'd be trespassing, and the police would just send someone to tow it away. They're brooding and whining and trying to tell others in the neighborhood we were in the wrong and misled them, but luckily no one is falling for it. They tried to kick me out of a wedding because I wore a dress that looks white under a black light. A few months ago, I attended a close friend's wedding with my husband. I wore a yellow dress. Think like Belle in Beauty of the Beast yellow, Bumblebee yellow. So yellow that I did not question if it was appropriate or not to wear to a wedding, and neither did my friends nor family. I arrive at the wedding, we have the ceremony, the cocktail hour, the dinner, and the reception. I get many compliments on the dress, and the bride even comments on how much she loves it several times. Towards the end of the reception, the venue dimmed the lights and turned on some black lights. These black lights made my dress appear more white than yellow. A member of the wedding party approached me while the black lights were on and stated that I needed to leave because my dress was white and inappropriate. I stated that the dress was yellow, but the black lights were making it appear white. The member of the wedding party stated that if I didn't leave, she would make me. I stated I'm here to celebrate my friend, repeated that the dress was yellow, and said I will not be leaving early. Bride and groom hadn't left yet, and I came from overseas. The conversation, while heated, did not have raised voices or foul language from either side, but I will say it was tense. The wedding party member walked off, and I watched as they immediately went to talk to the groom, angrily pointing in my direction. The groom shrugged and continued to dance. That's honestly incredibly silly that this person even cared that much. I get that wearing white to a wedding is typically not okay if you're not the bride, but who would even consider how the color would appear under a black light ahead of time, especially if you didn't even know that there was going to be a black light at the wedding? I'm sure this one person was probably the only person there who even cared. And honestly, her going around kicking up a fuss probably put more of a damper on the wedding than the color of OP's dress. And I mean, the groom didn't seem to care either. Anyway guys, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps me out. And even more so if you hit that subscribe button as well for more content like this. So I'm out of here. Have an awesome day everyone, and I'll see you next time.